With Ghost of Yōtei right around the corner, as well as a film adaptation in the works, I, Suggestive Gaming, figured there's no better time to revisit the epic tale of Jin Sakai and his transformation from samurai to the legendary Ghost of Tsushima. As always on this series, I'm going to focus on the core storyline of Sucker Punch Productions' 2020 smash hit, Ghost of Tsushima, weaving in the Iki Island DLC expansion chronologically. For brevity's sake, optional tales, side quests, and the Legends multiplayer storyline won't be covered, as I'll be sticking to the narrative of the main single-player story. I'm also going to apologize in advance for my pronunciations in this video, though I'm going to try my very best. Now, without further ado, this is what you need to know about the story of Ghost of Tsushima. Our story begins in the year 1274, as a Mongol invasion led by Khotun Khan lands on the Japanese island of Tsushima. Lord Shimura, the island's Jito, or governor, rallies 80 samurai, including his nephew Jin Sakai, to face the horde on Komoda Beach. The samurai charge in true honorable fashion, and are utterly crushed. The Mongols' weapons and tactics overwhelm the defenders. Lord Shimura is captured, and Jin, badly wounded after a duel with the Khan's top warrior, is left for dead on the battlefield. Luckily, a local thief named Yuna finds Jin and nurses him back to health. When Jin awakens, Yuna grimly informs him that Tsushima has fallen. The Mongols now occupy most of the island. Despite his injuries and the staggering odds, Jin's goal is clear: rescue his uncle, Lord Shimura, who raised him after his father's death, from the Mongols' hands. Jin attempts a one-man assault on the Mongol stronghold at Castle Kaneda to free Shimura, fueled by his samurai training and perhaps a bit of desperation. This initial rescue attempt does not go as planned. Jin confronts Khotun Khan directly and is soundly defeated. The Khan finishes the fight by tossing Jin off a bridge, leaving him gravely injured once again. Realizing that charging head-on like a traditional samurai isn't going to cut it against this enemy, Jin reluctantly starts adopting new tactics. Yuna, a skilled survivor who's used to fighting dirty when needed, begins teaching Jin the art of guerrilla warfare: stealth, assassinations, distractions, all tricks that fly in the face of an honorable samurai upbringing. Jin, who's been raised to value honor above all, still can't deny that the honorable approach led to 80 dead samurai, so if he's gonna save Tsushima, he'll need to bend the samurai code, maybe even break it. To take on the Mongol army, Jin gathers a small but determined band of allies across the island. Yuna is the first, driven by her own goal to free her captive brother Taka, a skilled blacksmith. They soon recruit Kenji, a sake brewer and merchant who's more cowardly than courageous, although he's resourceful in a pinch. Jin also seeks out his old mentor Sensei Ishikawa, a master archer, and helps him deal with a personal crisis: his former student Tomoe has defected to the Mongols. In return, Ishikawa agrees to aid Jin's cause. He also finds Lady Masako Adachi, a formidable female samurai whose family was slaughtered by traitors on the invasion's eve. Masako's quest for vengeance parallels Jin's fight, so she too becomes an ally. Jin's best friend from childhood, Ryuzo, also joins with his band of Straw Hat Ronin, a group of mercenaries who have fallen on hard times. With this crew assembled, Jin starts striking back at the invaders. The group carries out raids on Mongol outposts, frees villages, and disrupts enemy supply lines. Before long, Jin's phantom-like tactics and impossible feats inspire locals to whisper a nickname: the Ghost. In their eyes, Jin's legend becomes that of a vengeful spirit risen to smite the Mongols, doing what the samurai could not. It's half hero worship, half superstition, and it marks the birth of Jin's new identity. Equipped with new tools, like a grappling hook that Taka forged for him, and new methods, Jin launches a second attempt to storm Castle Kaneda, where Lord Shimura is imprisoned. This time, instead of charging straight on, he uses stealth and cunning. Under the cover of night, Jin scales the castle walls with Taka's grapple and opens the gates for his allies. They then fight their way through the fort. During this assault, however, Ryuzo and his Straw Hats turn on Jin. As it turns out, Khoten Khan has placed a massive bounty on Jin's head, one that Ryuzo and his men are sorely after. Ryuzo betrays his friend in hopes of reward and rice. Jin fends off the betrayal, heartbroken but determined, and ultimately duels Ryuzo, but the former friends reach a stalemate and Ryuzo retreats. Despite this setback, Jin's remaining team manages to free Lord Shimura and liberate Castle Kaneda from the Mongols, marking a huge victory for Tsushima's resistance. Uncle and nephew reunite after the battle, and while Lord Shimura is proud of Jin's progress, he's a bit troubled by the ghost tactics that Jin employed. Unfortunately, Khoten Khan himself is nowhere to be found within the castle. The Khan anticipated Jin's move and had already moved his army to his next target, Castle Shimura, the Shimura family's own fortress. Even worse, Ryuzo has fully sided with the Mongols, guiding Khoten's forces in exchange for food and status. While Jin may have won this battle, the war for Tsushima is far from over. With Castle Kaneda secured, Lord Shimura and Jin plan a counterattack to reclaim the rest of the island. Shimura's aim is to retake Castle Shimura from the Mongols and then push the invaders out of Tsushima for good. To do that, however, they'll need significantly more manpower. The good news, Lord Shimura can now contact the mainland for reinforcements, and he sends word via Goro, a brave local pirate, to ask the shogun, Japan's military ruler, to send samurai reinforcements and officially adopt Jin as his heir. Shimura, having no children of his own, is left so impressed with Jin's valor that he wishes to make Jin his own son in name. The bad news, however, these reinforcements will take some time to arrive. In the meantime, Jin continues rallying the people of Tsushima. He secures help from Norio, a warrior monk from Cedar Temple, as well as Norio's band of Buddhist monks, who are fighting back against the Mongol oppression. He also seeks aid from the proud people of Yarikawa, former rebels who once fought against Lord Shimura's clan. Winning Yarikawa's support isn't easy, their grudge against Clan Shimura runs deep, but Jin, embracing the ghost persona, manages to inspire Yarikawa's fighters by single-handedly defeating a Mongol siege on their town. With Norio's monks and Yarikawa's soldiers now on board, Jin's forces grow stronger and stronger. As preparations for retaking Castle Shimura ramp up, Jin takes a moment to reconnect with his own past. He visits Yuriko, an elderly caretaker of the Sakai estate, who was close with Jin's family. Yuriko provides Jin with his late father's clan armor, a suit of Sakai family armor that Jin had hesitated to wear until now, as it carries heavy emotional baggage regarding his father. More practically, Yuriko also teaches Jin how to craft poison darts from local flowers. While poison is utterly disgraceful to honorable samurai, Jin nonetheless adds it to his arsenal as a necessity to defeat the Mongols. However, during a strike on one of the Khan's strongholds, Jin finds himself captured by the Mongols, alongside Taka. The Khan tempts Jin with promises of peace and power if he surrenders, but Jin refuses. As punishment, Khoten Khan turns his sights on Taka, forcing him to make a desperate move to strike at the Khan, only to be cut down before Jin's eyes. Luckily, Jin is able to escape captivity and regroup with Yuna, whom he's forced to inform about her brother's death. While Yuna initially blames Jin for Taka's death, the pair are able to escape the Mongols with Taka's body to give him a proper burial. Finally, Lord Shimura's samurai reinforcements arrive from the mainland, bolstering their ranks. With a formidable army assembled, Lord Shimura leads the charge to siege Castle Shimura and drive the Mongols out. Jin fights alongside his uncle in the assault, initially as an obedient samurai commander, and they manage to push the Mongols back and clear the outer courtyard of the castle. The samurai's victory seems within reach, as they force the Mongols to retreat behind the castle's inner yard. However, Khoten Khan isn't done with surprises. The Mongols blow up the only bridge to the inner keep with black powder explosives, killing many samurai and halting the assault, bringing the siege to a bloody standstill. Lord Shimura prepares to launch a second full frontal attack at dawn, but Jin realizes that doing the honorable thing now would just get more of their people slaughtered. The Mongols are dug in and will anticipate another direct charge, so Jin proposes a different plan that night, one that's more fitting of his ghost legend. He decides to infiltrate Castle Shimura alone, under cover of darkness, and use poison to incapacitate the Mongols. While a morally dubious tactic, Jin sees it as the only way to save lives on his side. Jin sneaks into the castle keep and stealthily contaminates the Mongols' alcohol with the deadly poison he created. When the Mongol soldiers drink it, they collapse, and the garrison is effectively neutralized without a battle. Jin confronts Ryuzo one last time during this infiltration, and the two finally duel properly. After an intense fight, Jin finally kills Ryuzo. By the time Lord Shimura's forces enter the keep, they find that Jin's underhanded tactics have won the day. Castle Shimura is retaken with minimal samurai losses. However, what should be a triumphant reunion turns sour when Lord Shimura learns how victory was achieved. He witnesses the gruesome aftermath of Jin's poison and, as a lifelong samurai, he is horrified. Jin tries to explain that it was necessary to save lives, and that the code isn't effective against an enemy who doesn't follow it. He argues that if adhering to honor means death and defeat, perhaps it's time to redefine honor. Lord Shimura then reveals that the shogun, upon hearing of the ghost and the poisonous tactics, has decreed that Jin Sakai is to be arrested and punished. In a heartbreaking moment, Lord Shimura, who had hoped to make Jin his son and heir, is forced to detain his own nephew as a traitor. Jin is then imprisoned at Castle Shimura to await the shogun's judgment. Locked up as a criminal by the uncle he had just saved, Jin faces an agonizing dilemma. Outside, the Mongol Khan has escaped to the northern reaches of Tsushima, and if Jin doesn't stop him, Khoten Khan will regroup and continue his invasion, possibly moving on to mainland Japan. However, if Jin escapes and fights, he'll officially be a Ronin and an outlaw, officially turning against the shogun's authority. Ultimately, Jin's sense of responsibility to his people wins out. With help from Genji, Jin breaks out of captivity. During the escape, Jin's beloved horse is shot by Mongol archers and collapses. In a scene that'll hit players right in the feels, with flashbacks to the never-ending story's swamp of sadness, Jin says a painful goodbye as his trusty companion breathes its last. Another sacrifice on the road to freeing Tsushima. Now on foot and a fugitive, Jin heads north alone, with Yuna as his sole ally, determined to finish the fight against the Khan. By this point, Jin has fully embraced the identity of the Ghost. Stripped of his official samurai status, he operates as a one-man guerrilla force. He soon hears that Khoten Khan has set up camp at Port Izumi in Kamiyagata, the northernmost region of the island, preparing his fleet to sail for the Japanese mainland. Even worse, the Khan has learned to weaponize Jin's very own poison. Mongols begin gassing villages with Jin's poison, causing horrific civilian casualties, a consequence that weighs heavily on Jin. Feeling responsible, Jin vows to stop the Khan before any ships can depart Tsushima's shores. Jin reunites with Yuna and what's left of their allies for one final strike. Knowing a head-on assault with their few numbers is impossible, Jin devises a plan to infiltrate Port Izumi quietly. Before going, Jin leaves a letter for Lord Shimura, imploring his uncle to join the battle with what samurai remain, despite the rift that's now between them. As a ferocious storm rolls in, fittingly dramatic, Jin strikes, sneaking through the Mongol camp and setting fire to explosives while creating chaos as a diversion. Lord Shimura's samurai then arrive and launch an attack at the gates at the same time, dividing the Mongol attention. Amid the chaos, Jin fights his way to the Khan's flagship vessel, anchored at the harbor. This leads to an epic showdown on the deck of the ship, where Jin confronts Khoten Khan at last. A brutal duel then ensues. The Khan is a huge, cunning warrior armed with poison darts and brute strength, while Jin uses every technique he's learned thus far, both samurai skills and ghost tricks, to bring down the invader. After a fierce battle surrounded by burning ships and crashing waves, Jin kills Khotan Khan, finally avenging Tsushima and leaving the Mongol invasion to collapse without its leader. In the aftermath, however, Jin is forced to face the consequences of defying the samurai code and the shogun's orders. Lord Shimura sends word to Jin asking to meet at Lake Izumi, under the pretense of a final farewell. Uncle and nephew meet in a peaceful clearing, both filled with sorrow over everything that's transpired. Lord Shimura sadly informs Jin that the shogun has disbanded Clan Sakai, Jin's family clan, effectively erasing Jin's samurai heritage, and declared Jin a criminal threat to Tsushima. The shogun fears that Jin's example, the ghost inspiring people to act without orders, could incite rebellion in other provinces. Lord Shimura, bound by duty, has been ordered to execute Jin as a traitor. The two men, once as close as father and son, now find themselves on opposite sides of law and honor. They share one last emotional conversation, but Shimura insists that they must abide by the shogun's command and duel to the death. To Shimura, the only way Jin can redeem his honor is by dying a warrior's death. On a tranquil field, uncle and nephew duel. It's as poetic as it is tragic. Shimura fights for his duty and code, while Jin fights for his life and his new ideals. In the end, Jin wins the duel, disarming and wounding his uncle. Lord Shimura, kneeling and defeated, begs Jin to give him an honorable death. Here, Jin is given the choice whether to spare his uncle or honor his wish for death. Either way, Jin's quest ends in a new rustic home that becomes his base, as he fully embraces his identity as the Ghost of Tsushima. Yuna finds him there and says goodbye for now. With the Mongol leader dead, she plans to help liberate other parts of the island on her own, while Jin operates independently. Jin is left contemplating the cost of victory. He saved Tsushima, but lost his family's honor and became a wanted man. Still, when he looks out to the island, he knows his people are safe because he broke the rules. In Jin's mind, the trade-off was worth it. Thus concludes the tale of the Ghost, or at least the first part of it. Jin's story continues a little while after the main invasion, when a new threat emerges, one that is strangely personal to him. While Jin is helping mop up the remaining Mongol forces on Tsushima, he stumbles upon a village where people are acting very bizarrely. They seem poisoned, driven into hallucinations and madness by some kind of Mongol concoction. Investigating further, Jin discovers these villagers were dosed with a sacred medicine, a kind of psychedelic poison administered by Mongols from a tribe he's never met before. These Mongols belong to the Eagle tribe and speak of their leader, someone appropriately called the Eagle. Jin confronts and defeats the small Mongol group responsible for the poisoning, but the damage to the village is irreversible. Jin learns from a dying Mongol that this Eagle tribe has already gained a foothold on Iki Island, a smaller island to the southeast of Tsushima. Even worse, the Eagle tribe plans to use Iki as a staging ground to attack Tsushima from another direction, effectively opening a second front in the Mongol invasion. Jin realizes that if this poison spreads, Tsushima and the Japanese mainland could face an even more insidious danger than Khotan Khan's armies. The only way to stop this threat is to hunt down the Eagle on Iki Island. However, this task is easier said than done for Jin Sakai. Iki Island is a place full of bitter memories and local hostility towards samurai, especially for his own clan Sakai. Many years ago, Jin's father, Lord Kazumasa Sakai, led a samurai campaign to pacify Iki Island, which was overrun by pirates and raiders. That campaign ended in disaster. Kazumasa was ambushed and killed on Iki, and the samurai forces withdrew in defeat. Jin, who was just a child, witnessed his father's death on Iki and carried guilt over it his whole life. To make matters worse, the people of Iki remember Kazumasa Sakai as the Butcher of Iki, a hated invader who slaughtered locals during that failed campaign. In short, Clan Sakai is not very welcome on Iki Island. Jin knows that if he shows up with his family name and samurai banner, the Iki rebels might shoot him on sight. Nonetheless, Jin is determined to protect Tsushima from this new threat, even if it means returning to the site of his childhood trauma. Bracing himself, Jin conceals the Sakai clan markings on his armor and sets sail for Iki Island alone. Upon approaching Iki, Jin's journey immediately hits a literal storm. A fierce thunderstorm wrecks Jin's small boat on the shores of Iki Island. Separated from his horse and supplies, Jin washes up on a beach a bit worse for wear, but luckily alive. Jin begins to explore Iki, finding it to be a wild, lawless land of jagged cliffs, dense jungles, and no samurai authority in sight. Soon, Jin finds evidence of the Mongol presence. The Eagle's tribe has indeed occupied Jin's late father's old fortress, still known as Fort Sakai. Jin, stubborn and fearless as ever, decides to infiltrate Fort Sakai head-on to deal a blow to the Eagle's forces. This proves a bit ill-conceived. Jin sneaks into the fort, but is swiftly captured by the Eagle's second-in-command, a brutal warrior named Kun Bish, and brought before the Eagle herself. Finally coming face to face with the Eagle, Anksar Khatun, Jin learns that she is both a Mongol noble and shaman. The Eagle doesn't immediately kill Jin, instead seeing him as a potential ally to convert. She force-feeds Jin a dose of her special hallucinogenic poison, the same sacred medicine that wrecked the villagers on Tsushima. The shaman attempts to break Jin's mind to turn him into one of her own, essentially brainwashing him into joining her tribe. Caught off guard, Jin inhales the toxin and collapses, overwhelmed by vivid hallucinations. In them, Jin is thrown into a psychological nightmare. The poison induces visions of Jin's greatest fears and regrets. He sees haunting apparitions of his father scolding him, scenes of samurai dying because of him, and the Eagle's eerie voice constantly undermining his sense of reality. Luckily, before the Eagle can complete her conversion of Jin, help comes from an unlikely source. A local Iki Island raider named Tenzo sneaks into the fort amid the confusion and rescues Jin. Tenzo drags the disoriented Jin out of Fort Sakai and to temporary safety. When Jin comes to, Tenzo makes it clear he's not thrilled about saving a samurai, but realizes that the enemy of his enemy is his friend. Jin, still woozy from the poison, convinces Tenzo that they should work together to stop the Eagle, and though he's suspicious, Tenzo agrees to introduce Jin to his leader. Tenzo brings Jin to a secret encampment of Iki raiders and smugglers, where he's introduced to Fune, the woman who leads the largest raider crew on Iki Island. Fune is as tough and cunning as they come, and she immediately questions why Tenzo has delivered a hated samurai to their doorstep. Jin, sensing the danger, downplays his identity and pitches himself simply as a samurai from Tsushima who wants the Eagle dead. He explains the Eagle's invasion plan and how Iki and Tsushima share a common enemy. While Fune is reluctant to work with the samurai, she's smart enough to see the bigger picture. After some debate and a bit of attitude from Jin that Tenzo quickly warns him to check, Fune agrees to a temporary alliance. Jin agrees to work with the raiders of Iki to expel the Mongols, and in return, the raiders won't kill Jin for being a samurai. At least not until the Eagle is dealt with. Over the next few days, Jin, still intermittently suffering hallucinations from the poison, teams up with Tenzo and the raiders to liberate Iki Island bit by bit. They raid Mongol outposts, rescue captive islanders, and ambush enemy patrols. Jin's tactics as the Ghost prove extremely effective alongside the raiders' guerrilla style. Over time, Jin earns a measure of respect from the Iki rebels, even if they still side-eye him, muttering that he smells like samurai. In these adventures, Jin revisits places from his childhood and confronts memories of the Sakai campaign. For instance, they pass through a village that Jin remembers was once thriving, but now is a ruin, destroyed years ago during his father's invasion. Tenzo offhandedly mentions that the village was abandoned after the Butcher of Iki massacred its inhabitants back then. Jin has to silently swallow these harsh stories about his father's legacy, even as his father's ghost appears in the hallucinations to berate him. Despite these struggles, Jin and the raiders strike some major blows against the Eagle, eventually leading them to try to retake Fort Sakai from the Mongols. Storming the fort that once belonged to his family, Jin finally confronts Khun Beach, the Eagle's second-in-command who had captured him earlier, and defeats him in combat. With Fort Sakai reclaimed, it seems the raiders might finally have the upper hand. Their victory is short-lived, though, as the Eagle launches a vicious counterattack on another part of the island, catching the raiders off guard. Jin and Tenzo rush to defend a settlement from the Eagle's forces, and while they succeed, amidst the battle's chaos, Jin witnesses something that shakes him to his core. Tenzo mercifully speaks a phrase to a dying Mongol: "May your death benefit all beings." Jin freezes upon hearing these words, as he recognizes the exact same Buddhist phrase the mysterious masked raider spoke to Jin's father, moments before killing Kazumasa Sakai years ago. Jin suddenly realizes the truth. Tenzo is none other than the man who killed his father. This revelation hits Jin like a blade to the gut. All this time, the comrade fighting by his side is the very person who ambushed Lord Sakai years ago. Jin's emotions boil over, and in a flash of rage, he draws his sword on Tenzo. Tenzo, stunned that Jin is Kazumasa's son, admits that he was among the raiders who ambushed Kazumasa. In fact, Tenzo delivered the killing blow to Jin's father to protect his own people from the samurai. It wasn't personal. At the time, Tenzo saw Kazumasa as a ruthless invader, which, frankly, he was from Iki's perspective. In a powerful act of restraint, Jin chooses to spare Tenzo, dropping his blade and letting the man live. Jin realizes that continuing the cycle of vengeance will help no one. He's no longer the frightened boy who watched his father die, and he won't dishonor his memory by murdering an ally in cold blood. Instead, Jin channels that emotion into determination to finish the fight against the Eagle. Tenzo is left stunned by this mercy, and a quiet understanding forms between the men. Regrouping after this revelation, Jin and Tenzo agree on a final plan to defeat the Eagle once and for all. Fittingly, Jin proposes they reenact the ambush that killed his father, essentially luring the Eagle's army into a trap at the same place and in the same way Kazumasa was trapped years ago. Fune and the raiders marshal their remaining warriors for one last battle, spreading word through spies or scouts that Jin and some other samurai are camped in a canyon. Predictably, the Eagle takes the bait, bringing her forces out to crush the ghost and any samurai on Iki. Jin, Tenzo, and the raiders then lie in wait at Senjo Gorge, the very canyon where Lord Kazumasa fell. The Eagle arrives with a horde of Mongol warriors as the raiders spring their ambush, attacking from the cliffs. The ensuing battle is fierce and chaotic, and in the midst of it, the Eagle spots Jin. She confronts him directly, and the pair fight, with the Eagle continually trying to break Jin's spirit with her shamanic chants and remaining poison. Jin starts to falter as the hallucinations return with a vengeance. As his father's dying moments replay, Jin hears the Eagle's voice in his head telling him to give in. You failed your father, you failed your uncle, you are lost. But Jin overcomes these visions in a climactic moment of clarity. He remembers everything that Yuna, Lord Shimura, and all of the others have taught him, and he acknowledges a critical truth. His father, Kazumasa, had faults. Kazumasa's rigid adherence to honor and refusal to bend led to slaughter on Iki and perhaps even his own death. Jin finally lets go of the guilt he's carried, understanding that his father's death was not his fault and that the ideals of Clan Sakai were not infallible. In doing so, Jin breaks the power of the Eagle's poison over his mind, and the ghost of his father dissipates as Jin finds inner peace with what's happened. Recentered and resolute, Jin engages the Eagle in a final battle. In a hard-fought duel, Jin Sakai finally slays the Eagle, slashing her with the same katana that carries his father's spirit. The remaining Eagle tribe Mongols, seeing their leader fall, either flee or are cut down by the victorious raiders. The battle is won, and Iki Island is liberated from the Mongols, thanks to the unlikely alliance of samurai and raiders. After the dust settles, Jin and Tenzo stand together amidst the battlefield where years ago, Jin's father fell. Tenzo drops to his knees and genuinely apologizes for killing Kazumasa, expecting that Jin might still take his revenge now that the eagle is gone. However, Jin has truly made peace with it. He tells Tenzo that he understands why it happened, and that he forgives it. The two men, once enemies by blood, now share a mutual respect and forgiveness. Fune and the raiders also come to respect Jin, as the ghost proved to be very different from the Butcher of Iki. Jin earned their trust by saving Iki, and by the time he's leaving, Fune even hints that he's welcome back, saying she could use the help of a samurai who knows how to keep a secret. A lighthearted acknowledgement of Jin's dual nature. Jin then departs Iki Island not only having stopped a dangerous enemy, but also having healed a wound in his own soul that he'd carried since childhood. He returns to Tsushima shortly after, and while he remains a wanted man in the eyes of the shogun, among the common folk, he's more legend than outlaw. In the shadows, the ghost continues to protect the island from any remaining threats, whether they be Mongol stragglers, bandits, or anyone else who would prey on the innocent. And with that, we reach the end of Jin's story so far. Jin Sakai's journey took him from a noble samurai bound by tradition to a night-crawling folk hero willing to sacrifice his honor to save his people. In the end, Jin remains a guardian of Tsushima, one forged by both honor and sacrifice, walking a path uniquely his own. With Ghost of Yōtei on the horizon, however, this journey is far from over. We'll soon re-enter the world Sucker Punch Productions has laid out before us, 3 centuries after Jin's adventure, where we find Atsu, ready to embark on her very own. Hey everybody, thanks for sticking to the end of this video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and ring the bell so you don't miss future uploads. An even bigger shout out to my channel members and patrons who make this possible. You folks really keep the channel alive, and the kittens and I couldn't be more grateful. If you'd like to support the channel directly and get your name on this list, check out the links in the description to become a member or join me on Patreon. A huge thanks goes out to my wife, Aziza, who actually played through the game to capture the footage and helped me with the script since I didn't play it. I tried to, but turns out she's just way better at games than I am, despite the fact that I literally play them for a living now. Thank you, dear, and as always, I'm Suggestive Gaming. Now, you're in the know.